कितने गाजी आए कितने चले गए?
I said, we will get the bastards. What they don't see in a soldier is he's a very soft person from within. फौज में प्रॉफिट लॉस लाखों में नहीं होता है, हमारा जिंदगी मौत का सवाल है. We have a profit loss statement being written every moment.
It's about how you lost your mother when you were only 3 years old.
Ma'am, this is one part of my life I have never revealed to anyone.
God bless her.
God bless.
I'm sorry, I think I've upset you a little bit.
No, ma'am, it's okay. I'm proud of her.
Of course. कितने गाजी आए, कितने गाजी गए. This, General Dhillon, is now a national slogan. It reminds me of, similar to when the legendary Vikram Batra said, "Ye dil mange more" to me at the Kargil front line. And that became a national motto. And now your lines, "Kitne Ghazi Aaye, Kitne Ghazi Gaye," are evocative of the same Fauji spirit of courage, of dildar bravery, and have made you one of the most followed, respected, admired, loved soldier generals in this country. And it is an absolute honor to have you with us on our podcast, Inside Out. General Dhillon, I want to start by asking you the story behind this line. I know the story, लेकिन हो सकता है बहुत से हमारे ऑडियंस के लोग हों जो नहीं जानते कि ये जो आपने लाइन बोली ये एक प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस पे बोली गई few days after the Pulwama terror attack, when you had eliminated one of the main masterminds, and you said this at the press conference. Let's start by setting the stage for the story behind this line.
Thank you, ma'am, and good day to all your viewers. कितने गाजी आए, कितने गाजी गए. This phrase or this line was spoken in the press conference in Badami Bagh in Srinagar on 19th of February 2019. That is 4 days after the Pulwama ID blast. Pulwama ID blast, ma'am, as you are aware, was carried out by Jaish-e-Mohammed, and the mastermind of that blast, who was a Pakistani terrorist named Kamran, and his code name was Gazi. And once we had 40 brave hearts of CRPF losing their lives in that action, then as a security forces team, we got down to business and eliminated this module within 100 hours.
Yes.
But in those 4 days, the media was abuzz with this code name Gazi, that mastermind of Pulwama blast is Gazi. So when this press conference was going on, which I was addressing along with the IGP, CRPF and IGP Kashmir, so a journalist asked me a question, "Sir, is Gazi dead?" I didn't want to give much credence to this terrorist. So that is when I made this statement, "Kitne Ghazi Aaye, Kitne Ghazi Gaye, Parwah nahi, don't worry, we are there." And this has a background to it. I have served multiple tenures in Kashmir since my captain days.
Yes.
And Ghazi is a very preferred code name or code word for Pakistani terrorists. So in my previous tenures also, we had eliminated many code-named Ghazi terrorists. So this line, "Kitne Ghazi Aaye, Kitne Ghazi Gaye, Parwah nahi," and if we can go back into history a little more, Muhammad Ghazni bhi aaya tha. So India stands tall always.
And it's a fantastic story. और मैं अभी भी वो प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस की क्लिप देखती हूँ ना तो कहते हैं ना I get goosebumps.
Yes.
अभी भी I think everybody gets goosebumps watching you in your uniform, exemplifying in a sense the proud courage of our military. But General Dhillon, I think not many people know कि ये जो press conference थी where you said these seminal lines, this press conference almost never happened. Yes. After the Pulwama terror attack. And your book, it's a fascinating read, Kitne Ghazi Aaye, Kitne Ghazi Gaye, my life story, General Tiny Dhillon's story. Why he's called Tiny, I don't know. क्योंकि I've never seen a taller, more strapping general साहब. उस पे भी आएंगे. लेकिन in your book reveals कि ये press conference होने ही नहीं वाली थी जिस तरह से हुई. In fact, you were handed a pre-prepared single note and you were told no questions. And you said, "No, I'm not going to do the press conference like this."
Yes, ma'am. on that date, when this press conference happened, I had laid wreath for the mortal remains and paid my last tributes and salute to Major Vibhuti Dondial and the soldiers who had lost their life in this action in Pinglana,
Yes.
where this terrorist Gazi and the full module was eliminated.
Yes.
I had laid the wreath and I was going towards the line of control. Suddenly I was told there is a press conference. So I came to my office and my staff handed me a one-page press note. Since, as you are aware, I was just about 7-8 days old in my chair as Chinar Corps Commander.
I am aware of this, but I don't think our audience is.
Okay.
Ki Pulwama Terror Attack jab hua on the 14th of February,
Yes.
you had just taken command.
4 days, ma'am.
4 days back. So literally baptism by fire.
Yes, ma'am. So I had taken over on 10th of February as Chinar Corps Commander. 14th February, Pulwama happened. And 19th February morning, this press conference was there, and I had laid the wreath on the mortal remains of the soldiers who had lost their life. And then I was told there's a press conference. So my staff handed me a one-page press note and told me, sir, this is the press note. You will read this press note. We have already distributed this press note to the media persons. And that is the press conference. So I asked him, I said, are there any questions and answers after that? They were told, sir, no, you will not take any questions. I said, is it live? They said, no, sir, it's not live. All the camera people, all the media people are with their cameras. They will record it and then they will play it in their own time. I said, if it is not live, if I'm not taking questions, I'm only handing a press note and walking out, I'm giving a message, I have something to hide.
Yes.
I said, I'm not doing this press conference. Now, this is when everyone is ready for the press conference. In my office, I said, I am not doing this press conference. I want it live. I will take as many questions as the media people have. And I'll speak what I have to speak. I will not take this note. So suddenly when the OB-vans were called in,
Yes.
the cameras were shifted and everything happened. And we had this press conference good about 1 hour. And we took a lot of questions.
And this is where you said, Kitne Ghazi Aaye.
And this is where the question about Gazi came, and Kitne Ghazi Aaye, Kitne Ghazi Gaye also came up in this press conference. And rest, as you say, it's history.
Absolutely. And then there is a young ADC officer of yours. And when the news comes in first, you have not yet eliminated Gazi. And he's obviously disturbed. And he says to you, sir, what will happen now as the news comes that 40 of our CRPF Jawans have been lost to this terror attack? You say what?
Ma'am, it was that evening, after the 14th February evening, once the situation was becoming clear by every minute, and this young officer, Captain Sandeep Singh, who was my ADC, was also with me in the office and wherever I was going. So naturally, young man was anxious. And then we were traveling for a meeting to chart out the future course of action. So he was traveling with me, and en route he asked me, sir, ab kya hoga? What will happen now? So please pardon my language. I said, we will get the bastards. And that's exactly what we did within 100 hours.
Yeah.
In that meeting also, there are a lot of questions on what went wrong, why things went wrong, who was responsible. So my point was, all these things will come up in the inquiry.
Yeah.
Now we should focus as a team security forces on getting the intelligence and eliminating this model. And that is where we started. 48 hours, we got the int, we hit, and we eliminated.
And one of the things that you reveal in your book is that while there was a lot of criticism, was this an intelligence failure or not? Why did Pulwama terror attack happen at all? You make the point that there are many terror attacks that are anticipated, the public never gets to know about. And you also reveal that 10 days after this Pulwama terror attack, you were able to actually anticipate and prevent another terror attack.
Yes, ma'am. A lot of questions were asked by people who are, I will say, qualified enough to ask these questions because of their background or their professional background. And many people who are not even qualified to ask the question. They have no clue what intelligence is, how intelligence is gathered. Notwithstanding, as Indians, they have the right to ask questions and they must be answered. So when this question was asked, was Pulwama an intelligence failure? Ma'am, if there are 100 attacks planned by terrorist groups or something, and here I want to make another thing very clear. The terror operations in Kashmir or counter-terror operation, we are fighting a country who is doing this.
Yes.
There is a full nation behind this. There is a full army who is carrying out the terrorist operations or terrorist activities in Kashmir.
Yes.
So we should understand the magnitude of their efforts. So if the 100 terror attacks planned by the enemy and intelligence agencies and security forces, because of their synergy, are able to, not allow 99 of them to happen.
Yeah.
And one gets through, in spite of the best efforts. And it is very unfortunate and sad that incident like Pulwama happened. I say that. It should not have happened. But it has happened and we are feeling very bad about it. So if one has gone through and 99 were averted, that does not mean the intelligence agencies or security forces are not doing their job. They're working day in and day out.
Yeah. And there's a lot to talk about what it means to be a soldier, what it means to be a general in a place like Kashmir, where, as you said, you're not fighting only local insurgents, you're fighting the machinery of an entire country and its state institutions, its deep state. And we'll get to that. But I want to talk a little bit about Tiny Dhillon, the man, his childhood, what made him who he is. Why are you called Tiny, if I may ask?
Ma'am, as a child, I was a child like any other child in
You're
school.
You're 6'3"?
I'm 6'3" tall. And my childhood was a normal routine childhood. I did my mischiefs. I failed in my class. I took another person impersonating as my guardian to my principal. So I did all these things.
Matlab general saab bhi shaitan bacche hote hain.
Yes, ma'am. So this is the point I want to convey to all the young boys and girls.
Yes.
There's nothing wrong in these things.
Yes.
These are perfectly normal things while you're growing up. Yes, you mature at a particular time. Thereafterwards, you get down to serious things in life.
Yes.
Now, coming back to why Tiny. Mentioned in this book also, in my unit where I was commissioned in December 1983, 4th Battalion, the Rajputana Rifles, there is a small little tradition. They give a code name or a nickname to the officer, which is opposite of his personality or his appearance.
Yes.
I am 6'3" tall, I was called Tiny. Another officer senior to me is again 6'3" tall, he was called Shorty. Officer junior to me, still serving Lieutenant General, he was called Mini. And the most meticulous officer was called Goofy. So this is how this name, and thereafterwards this name.
This name stuck. I think everyone knows you now as General Tiny Dhillon.
Yes, ma'am, 95% people.
Sab aapko Tiny hi bulate hain.
Yes, ma'am, senior, junior, everyone calls me Tiny.
So what people I think don't know is that your courage goes back to your mother.
Yes, ma'am.
And there is an extremely moving account that I want you to share with our audience about how you lost your mother when you were only 3 years old. And she was, in fact, fighting a wild animal. Your parents were posted in Nepal. They were out for a morning walk. Kya hua uske baad?
Ma'am, this is one part of my life I have never revealed to anyone. For two reasons. One is this incident which happened to me when I was 3 years old. It's a very personal incident and it gives me a lot of pride. I lost my mother, but the circumstances which led to her loss,
Yes.
I am proud of it, and that gives me a lot of strength. Second is, as I grew in service, as I grew in my life, I did not want people to look at me with some sort of daya.
You did not want pity.
I did not want pity. I wanted people to acknowledge my work,
Yes.
acknowledge what I am, and acknowledge what Tiny Dhillon's capabilities are. For these two reasons, I never revealed this to anyone, but now that you read it in the book, it is mentioned on the first page book on your show. For the first time, I'll reveal it. My parents, my father is a civil engineer,
Yes.
and my mother was 5 feet 8 inches tall lady.
Tall like her son.
Yeah, son is tall like her.
Tall, yes. Son is tall like her.
And I given the photograph also of my mother in the book.
Yes.
That's the only photograph I have. And I was about 3 years of age. It was December 64 when they were posted in Nepal, and they were going for a morning walk. A wild animal attacked my father. He almost mauled my father to death. Since it was winter days, my mother was having a shawl around her shoulders. She took off her shawl, put it around the neck of that animal who was pouncing or almost mauling my dad, and started squeezing it. She squeezed that animal's neck to death and saved my father. In the bargain, the animal also attacked her. There were a lot of bites and nail bites and scratches. And when she was recovering from her injuries, some injections were transported from Gorakhpur in a thermos, flask. And somehow the temperature could not be maintained in that flask in those days. And those injections got bad. And she had a reaction to the injections, and then she succumbed to that infection in January 65.
So like a soldier, she basically died saving your father's life.
Absolutely, ma'am. Like in the army we say, he died with boots on. She literally died with boots on.
And I can see how much it moves you and saddens you even today, of course.
Yes, I'm proud of her.
Of course. And she's called Sherma,
Sher Marma, yes.
which is the mother who killed a lion.
Yes, ma'am.
God bless her.
God bless.
I'm sorry, I think I've upset you a little bit.
No, ma'am, it's okay. I'm back.
You know, this is very important for people to see this side of you, because people think that soldiers never have an emotional side. And I always say soldiers are the most emotional people.
Yes, ma'am. Everyone looks at a soldier like a very burly, fit person with mustache or a tall, broad weapon, standing straight, spine straight, chin up, chest out.
Yeah.
What they don't see in a soldier is he's a very soft person from within. He loves his family, he loves people around him, he loves his buddy, he loves his team, he loves his nation. He is a very emotional person.
Yeah.
Ma'am, there's a reason. You, in a normal life in civil environment, you come across strong emotion for some portion of a day, some lighter moments, some humorous moments, some dark moments.
Yes.
For a soldier, 60 to 70% is he has to be very, very firm, very strong. So balance 30%, he has to catch up on all other emotions.
Yes.
So he's a very emotional man, and that's the reason, ma'am, in counter-terrorist operations where civilians are involved. Like as a corps commander, hard kills were only 10% of my job. Someone pointed out in my Twitter bio, he said it starts with work for peace in Kashmir.
Yes.
I didn't take credit of work for killing terrorists in Kashmir.
Yes.
So that is the soldier for you,
ma'am. It's so important for people to understand the emotional makeup of a soldier. But I'm going to invoke, with your permission, one more sad memory of your childhood. Your mother dies at the age of 3. This brave woman dies with, as you said, her boots on, saving her husband's life. You then are brought up effectively by your BG, your Nani. But you lose your elder brother, Veerji, in a horrible accident. And another incredible story. He's out on his scooty.
Yes.
He dies in that accident, and an honest rickshaw puller brings back the ghadi, the watch, that your brother was wearing to you, and you have it till this date. Yes. I don't know if you're still.
I'm not wearing it because
today.
Now it's very fragile, so I just carry it in my bag.
Tell us that story.
Ma'am, it was my mother died in January of 1965, and 9 years later, in February of 1974, my elder brother, who was around 16 years at that age, and he died in a scooter accident. We were only 2 siblings from our mother, and having lost her, I lost my elder brother. Then I was the only one of that lineage, and my grandmother, my Nani ji, BG as you referred to, she brought me up.
Yes.
Another very strong lady. And my Nani ji would never let us do anything which is not done. And she would go to any extent to make us the man even at that age. Hats off to her, the way she brought us up. Wonderful.
And tragedy in that sense, losing your mother and your brother, made you maybe be a man before it was your time. Did you have to grow up too soon?
Yes, ma'am, you can say that, because after these 2 incidents and tragedies in my life, I started taking life seriously and not thinking too much of the consequences, because I thought it can't be bigger than this. So I started experimenting with life, which came back even as a Chinar Corps commander.
Yes.
No other commander would say that counter-terrorist operation is only 10% of my job. I experimented with peace.
And I want to talk about that, because one of your most famous experiments is Operation Ma, where you actually brought terrorists back to a normal life, encourage them to give up their weapons. But that in a moment from now. Kitne Ghazi Aaye, Kitne Ghazi Gaye has a story in your childhood. And it goes back to a funny story about a childhood bully whom you were playing, जिसको कहते हैं ना कंचे खेलना, marbles. You were playing marbles with a boy called Jaggi.
Yes.
And Jaggi was a bully.
Yes.
और वो जो होती है ना, वो cheating करके जब आप जीत रहे हैं, वो कह रहे हैं नहीं आप जीते नहीं, मैं जीता हूँ.
Yes.
And this is where the root of your iconic line, Kitne Ghazi Aaye, Kitne Ghazi Gaye starts. Tell us that story.
And this story, I think I was 7 years old, 7, 8 years old. And I was with my another cousin. This cousin of mine also later joined the army. And he died in action in Kashmir in December 93. Shora Chakrawadi. And we both were playing marbles with this guy, as you say, bully Jaggi.
Yes.
And we won. We won, and at some stage I said, okay, now enough, we are going. So this why Jaggi would not let us go. He said, no, you play or you leave your winning back. And my cousin, he didn't want unnecessary issues. So he says, Paji, chalo, chhod do, leave it. I picked up a fight with him. And anyway, we got our kitty back. And then he is asking me, why did you do this? I said, Kitne Ghazi Aaye, Kitne Ghazi Gaye. ऐसे थोड़ी चलेगा. So this is how, when I said those words, Kitne Ghazi Aaye, Kitne Ghazi Gaye, probably the root of it lied in that incident.
So Jaggi the bully had something good without knowing he contributed to a national, in a sense, vocabulary. Brilliant story. Your book is dedicated to 4 women in your life. Also, of course, to your son, who, as you say, doesn't say much, but when he speaks, he says, must hai.
Must hai.
But the 4 women, your BG,
yes, ma'am.
your mother,
Yes,
your
ma'am.
wife, and your daughter.
Yes, ma'am.
The 4 women who have been pillars in your life.
Yes.
And, you know, I think people don't appreciate what it takes for the families of soldiers.
Yes, ma'am.
They are soldiers themselves. And your wife, twice,
Yes, ma'am. Twice.
thought she had lost you.
Yes.
Once was when she was 8 months pregnant.
Yes, ma'am.
What happened, sir?
Ma'am, like as you said, 4 women over the 4 generations. My grandmother, my mother, wife, and daughter. They have been the biggest pillars of strength for me. They have been the biggest influencers on me. Like my daughter would even today find faults with my dressing, find faults with my pronunciation, and she would keep correcting me every minute.
Yes.
Like you said, our son, on the other hand, is a very must type of man. Quite, he will hardly say anything, but his acknowledgement will only come with Papa must hai.
Yes.
And that's it. And coming to the point which you made, ma'am,
Yes.
soldiers' families.
Yes.
Ma'am, soldiers' families are the strongest people on this earth, because when you are in the thick of it, when you're fighting it out, you have a weapon, another man has a weapon, you're firing it at each other or whatever. You know what you're doing. But your mother or your wife or your sister, for that matter, sitting back home, they only know that their father or son or brother is in a combat environment. For them, for a soldier, when the encounter is going on is the time. For them, all 24 hours of the day is as if an encounter is going on in their minds.
Yeah.
Every time the phone rings, the heartbeat goes up because the family feels now this is the news. It is absolutely strong strength of these women. I always say, soldiers' wives are the strongest women on this planet. Not only from this point of view, otherwise for bringing up the children. Like you said, my wife saw my death news twice.
So 2 times, once when she was pregnant,
When she was 8 months pregnant.
she thought you were dead.
She got the news and everyone confirmed it, that I'm dead. In fact, I written in detail in the book. I was trying to get across to her because of connectivity issues in those days.
और ना मोबाइल फोन था, ना सिविल लैंडलाइन थी.
And I called up on military line to few people. कि आप please go and call her up on the STD and tell her he's okay. Now imagine, ma'am, you have seen the news on the TV. And suddenly 4 different people, they initially told me, no, we'll call her up in the night, why disturb her call her in the morning, why disturb at night? But then all of them decide to give a call because it's urgent.
Yeah.
Imagine a lady who has just seen the news on the TV and after that 4 unknown people give you a call, or people who otherwise won't call you in the middle of the night, to say, don't worry, he's okay.
Yeah.
Now that further reinforces that these people are only trying to console me. And then most important point, again, I written in the book, and the point which you just made. She was a colonel's wife, or CEO's wife in the second instance, and major's wife staying with her parents as a first instance. In first instance, she was 8 months pregnant. She did not want her old parents in the morning to hear this news and, be this. She hid the newspaper next morning, because the newspaper also
reported that
there was a reported, not about me, but a similar name.
Similar name, yes.
So she picked up the newspaper first thing in the morning, even when she was 8 months pregnant, and hid it so that they don't read it. Yeah. At second instance, she was CEO's wife staying in the rare area. I was in Kashmir both times. And the other women, Jawans' wives and officers' wives in the same station. She knew, and she was all the night thinking how to bring up 2 children all by herself. But before the morning, she had got her composure back, and she had told herself, I will not put up a sorry face in front of the Jawans' wives and the officers' wives. As a commanding officer's wives, it's my responsibility to make sure they see a strong-willed lady. Because their husbands are also in Kashmir.
Yeah.
So this story is there in the book.
Yes, amazing.
And I'm proud of my wife. Every soldier is proud of their wife and mothers. And I can say, again, they're the strongest women on this planet.
Talking about women, and as you said, your Twitter bio says that you fight for peace. You in Kashmir are known to be the General Saab who used to quote from the Quran to appeal to mothers in Kashmir to encourage their terrorist sons to come back home. You were able to bring back 50 boys like that. And one of the things you said was that you discovered that Kashmiri men listen to their mothers more than their fathers.
Yes.
What was the spirit behind Operation Ma?
Ma'am, if I can take a little background. When I was a young captain or a major, every time a Kashmiri boy, a terrorist, was killed in an operation, those days mobiles were not there, invariably a letter would be recovered from his body, which he had either written to his mother or received from his mother.
Yeah.
So that told me as a young officer that Kashmiri society, mother has a very special place. Mothers have a special place in all the societies, in all the communities. Yeah. But in Kashmiri society, since I was working there, I realized this fact: the boys listen to the mother the most. Every time, even on the radio sets when they spoke, they would call Mummy, Ammi Jaan ko salam, Ammi Jaan ko dua, all that. So that told me that mothers are very important place. So when I became the corps commander, my first request was to the mothers to tell their sons who have picked up the gun and joined the terrorist organization to return. Even today, I will not call it surrender, because surrender has a social stigma attached to it.
Yes.
So I always use the word return. We appeal to the mothers that got quoted as Operation Ma. And someone asked me the other day, you have done so many operations, what are the best operations you have done? I said Operation Ma. Because others operations were for killing, this was for saving lives. So when we appeal to the mothers, we appeal to the headmen, sarpanches, opinion makers, the friends, elders, Maulvi Saabs. And that is when, and the assurance was given that no case would be made out against this boy. His identity will be kept secret, and he would be given an alternate job or option to make his living.
Yeah.
And that is how our word of mouth and our assurance worked. And you can say, जैसे बोलते हैं ना, उसके पीछे जो हमारी में truth था, जो हमारा truthfulness थी, that was conveyed. And more than 50 boys returned that year. And that's a wonderful feeling. Some of those boys are still in touch.
They're in touch with you?
They're in touch, and every time I get a message or a call from them, I get a feeling, look at this boy.
And you're able to forgive them their past?
Absolutely. That was the precondition. What happens is, ma'am, unless you are truthful in your approach, and the parents or the mother, unless they're convinced that you are saying the truth, ऐसा नहीं होगा कि वापस आएगा तो encounter करके मार देंगे.
Correct.
So that feeling had to be absolutely honest. And that is how it worked.
It's an amazing, in a way, social and CI experiment to actually say, just come back home. And amazing that those young men are still in touch with you. But talk a little bit about the life of a soldier in an operation. You know, I was reading about how in the old days there were swarming operations that you had to be part of. Other instances where you have to lie in ambush, sometimes for days altogether. This basically means that things that we take for granted, getting up in the morning, going to the loo, right? ये भी नहीं होता. ये सब ये मतलब the way we take our regular life for granted is not available to a soldier who's in the middle of an op.
Absolutely.
I want you to talk a little bit about that.
Ma'am, I've spoken about this operation which you referred to, swarming operations.
Yes.
That time I was a brigade commander in Handwara,
Yes.
commanding a Rashtriya Rifle sector. General Hasnan was my corps commander.
Yes.
In fact, I quoted General Hasnan's article where he writes in detail about how swarming operations were carried out. Coming back to the point how soldiers' life is. I mean, it's a life which is 100% dedicated. You talked about morning loo and other thing. Ma'am, when we are lying in an ambush, I still remember Captain Vivek Bandral, 21 Para SF, Sena Medal. As a major, we were together. Then as a commanding officer, I had a special mission to do across the line of control. I, by name, asked this officer. He came and trained with my battalion. After a few days, he went back and then we lost him in an operation in Kupara district only. One day, young captain, I was a senior major, we are lying in ambush in Lalab for 14 days.
14 days.
14 days. In Manipur also, we had done 14 days self-contained operations. And here, ma'am,
Self-contained operation means?
Self-contained operation means you carry whatever you can carry on your back.
Khana, water.
Everything. And water, you will get a spring here and there, you will refill your water bottle. Basically, we used to carry atta and achar. And tea leaves and sugar mixed, which I have again written in the book. And how, because our Jawans are very fond of sweets. And they will finish off the sugar in the first day itself. So we used to mix the tea leaves so that it survives few days. So we are carrying whatever we can carry on our back. So in one of these operations, me and Captain Bandral and few Jawans are there. And the concept was you have multiple ambushes and no one moves. Anyone moving, you're free to fire.
So you have to stay still.
You have to stay still. And
you're lying down in the forest.
You're lying down in the forest and there are trees which are fallen down. Anyone moving is making some noise.
कोई जानवर आ गया फिर?
So no problem. You aim with distance. There's no distinction. You can recognize if you want to. But moment you see someone moving and you're confirmed he is not a civilian.
Yes.
Then you're free to fire. And night the civilians are told not to get into the jungle. And Captain Bandral made a very interesting statement sitting, lying next to me. He says, sir, silence speaks.
The sound of silence.
Sound of silence speaks. Silence speaks the loudest. So I said, हाँ ठीक है. Then he says, sir, अभी सुनो. जब तक शांति है, moment a leaf falls, it will speak. He said, it's not the leaf falling which is speaking. It is the silence which is speaking. Okay, now a leaf has fallen. And what training, ma'am, what dedication of that officer. I learnt a lot. He was maybe 10, 12 years junior to me, but learnt a lot from him. Similarly, we learn every day. So that morning loo, we just take 2 side rolls, do a job and do side rolls, come back. You will not get up because if you get up, somebody might fire at you. So this is the type of dedication with which the soldier works. These things don't come out in the media. These things don't come out in stories.
Yeah.
Because soldier by nature is apna kaam karo aur aram karo. Soldier is not the one who wants to shout from the rooftop, I did this.
And that is why the soldier is so attached to his paltan, to
Yes,
his
ma'am.
buddy.
Yes, ma'am.
Because imagine, these are the experiences you go together. It's life and death.
Yes, ma'am.
आपने कहीं कहा था ना कि हम फौज में पैसे में कुछ मेजर नहीं करते.
Absolutely.
हम तो जिंदगी और मौत में मेजर करते हैं.
Absolutely. This point you made about buddy.
Yeah.
So that people can understand, the viewers can understand.
Yes.
I'm in civil life.
Yes.
By the end of the month, there is a profit loss statement.
Yeah.
Your work is measured, that you are the employee of the month, a photograph is put up in the office,
Yes.
and then you are given a rise or whatever. And वो महीने में इस महीने में आपने थोड़ा नुकसान हो गया तो you have next month to cover up. Your CEO will call you, you say this month you have not done well, you say don't worry sir, next month I'll do better. There is next month waiting. In army, ma'am, हमारा तो हर क्षण, every moment profit loss statement है. This moment my buddy is there with me, next moment he may not be there because of my negligence. Or I may not be there because of his negligence. So हमारे फौज में प्रॉफिट लॉस लाखों में नहीं होता है. हमारा जिंदगी मौत का सवाल है. We have a profit loss statement being written every moment. So my life is in my buddy's hand, my buddy's life is in my hands. And हमारी ईमानदारी, वफादारी, जिम्मेदारी towards each other, towards the team, towards the commander, towards the weapon has to be more than 100% at all the time. We cannot let our guard down because I letting the guard down, my buddy might get shot.
And that is why I think you've said that the toughest thing for you as a soldier is to lay the wreath on someone who's gone.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, most difficult part of a commander's job.
Yeah.
And this press conference which you refer to,
Kitne Ghazi Aaye.
Kitne Ghazi Aaye, Kitne Ghazi Gaye. Just before the press conference, I had laid the wreath on the mortal remains of Major Vibhuti Dondiyal and other soldiers whom we lost in that operation. Toughest job for a commander is to give a salute one last time to his comrades. As also, the toughest job is to make a call to the wife or the mother and say, sorry ma'am, I have bad news for you.
Nothing prepares you for that.
ये मौका ना ही आए तो अच्छा ना. For a soldier, most difficult job to do. I can fight for 100 hours, but these 2 seconds of call can actually kill me.
Yeah. And sometimes you have to deal with young girls, as you did when we lost CDS General Bipin Rawat.
Yes, ma'am.
And you went over.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell us how you, in a way, broke the news to these 2 young girls who lost both their parents in that crash.
On ma'am, 8th December 21, when we lost General Bipin Rawat in that helicopter crash,
Yes.
I got the news by about 1 o'clock or so. Immediately came home with my wife. I went to General Rawat's house because I knew I had exchanged a message with him the previous night about something happening in some other country. And we went to the house. The younger daughter was alone at home. Elder daughter is married. She was in Bombay. We stayed with the younger daughter from say about 1:30 till about 5:30. In between, Honorable Raksha Mantri also came to meet her. Yeah. And imagine, the news has not been officially broken. I have got the news in bits and pieces.
But you can't say it.
And every 10 minutes, this young girl is asking my wife or asking me, Uncle, kuch pata laga. What do you say? How do you say it?
Yeah.
Ma'am, those 4 hours on that winter afternoon were the most difficult time of my life. I never tell lies. I'm very transparent. I'm very forthright. Even with the media, I say whatever I know till that moment. Yeah. But that day, ma'am, I could not say. And she was getting her calls from her friends and other people also. Slowly and slowly, some relatives, some friends started coming in. Chief General Ravne came in by about 5:30 also. It's difficult. What do you answer? How do you answer? What do you say? And when the tragedy is so big, you lose both your parents.
Yeah.
And then we went to Brigadier Leader's house, Mrs. Leader, their young daughter, Ashna. Yeah. It's a difficult job in a commander's.
Young Ashna worked with us for a while, so very brave families. You're right. This is the toughest thing possibly to do. You know, you probably find this tougher than lying in ambush for 14 days taking
any
out
day,
terrorists.
Any day. I can lie in ambush for 100 days, but I can't withstand this 1 minute.
Goes back to the emotional nature of soldiers like yourself. And I always say courage and emotional vulnerability in soldiers coexist. और ये बहुत लोग नहीं समझते. People think soldiers are mechanical beings. So I want to come back to Kashmir, where you spent so much time. You also oversaw the post-abrogation of Article 370 period. It was one of the sort of most tectonic shifts, as it were, in policy. What was your concern, single biggest concern at that time when this decision was taken?
Ma'am, a lot of people in the hindsight would call me up and congratulate me. They must be doing the same for other stakeholders. That very well done, you know, no loss of life, no damage.
No turmoil, no street protest.
No the thing. And I very humbly say, yes, thank you very much. I think the team did the job. But ma'am, what is not known to many, which I have written in the book, what prior actions and the preparations happened, where we worked day in and day out to make sure, as and when the government takes the decision, there should be peace, there should be no loss of life. We worked around the clock, and we worked with a hand tied behind our back. That means we did not want to lose out the secrecy. We did not want to compromise on the confidentiality of it. There's a nation who is wanting to know what we're doing. There are elements within the country who are wanting to know what we're doing. With all this, and we had to prepare for this event. I've given some details in my book.
Yes.
And ma'am, most importantly, the point you made. When on 5th of August 2019, the government took the decision, we as a team security forces, we had 2 aims which we gave to ourselves. First aim was, it's a government's decision. And Indian government's rate must run in every part of the country. So this will be implemented in letter and spirit. Now, second aim we gave to ourselves is while doing so, there should be no loss of life, there should be no damage to property, public or private, and there should be peace. There should be no arson, there should be no mutiny. People are saying there will be mutiny in force. There should be no mutiny. There should be no loss of business and other things beyond a point. So we succeeded in both of them. Ma'am, those 3 months, you have covered Kashmir so extensively. Those 3 months post 5th August 2019 were possibly the most peaceful 3 months in terms of loss of human lives and property in the complete 3 decades of Kashmir terrorism. So this was achieved by the teamwork, the synergy between all the stakeholders, and I say Army, Jammu Kashmir Police, CRPF, intelligence agencies, civil administration, and most importantly, Awam, the people of Kashmir. They didn't want any loss. They didn't want any damage to their lives. Their contribution is tremendous. They suffered a few, you can say, restrictions, like high-speed mobiles.
I was going to come to that. You address the issue of internet shutdowns. It's been quite debated. I think a lot of people who've not spent time on the ground in Kashmir do not actually know how social media has been weaponized by extremists, by terrorists, how it is used during even terrorist operations or counter-terrorist operations to give away locations or details. Now, some of us who spend time on the ground understand this, but you take this issue head on and you argue about why this was a necessary move. Can you talk about that?
Absolutely, ma'am. I covered this in the book, Kitne Ghazi Aaye, Kitne Ghazi Gaye. Because, ma'am, there is a lot of misperception, there is a lot of misnomer, there is a lot of fake narrative being spread. Lockdown, clampdown. Now, first of all, the terminology like lockdown and clampdown are not legal terms. They have no legality. They are not in any rule book or law book. Okay, lockdown means this, this, and this. What happened was, high-speed internet was shut down, and basic internet 2G, 3G was also shut down for the initial few days. Landlines were restored the first, 2G was restored next. High-speed internet had to be shut down. Like I said, we had 2 aims. The second aim was maintenance of peace and no loss of life. There is a nation who would make videos either from Palestine or Syria or from other conflict zones and portray them as if these things are happening in Kashmir. Those videos, propaganda videos, would travel on the high-speed internet, will get downloaded, and the society would get agitated. Once the society will get agitated, there will be unrest. There will be unrest. Now, to stop that unrest, there will be some sort of firing and losses of life. Ma'am, I can live without internet. I've lived without internet for first 50 years of my life. I can live without internet for 30 days, high-speed internet, if I am assured your life will not be lost. And this is the point which a lot of people don't understand. If the high-speed internet restriction led to saving of lives, I am for it any day. I also mentioned the ambassadors of European countries on record saying, I have given a print of that. I saw
that. The German ambassador.
German ambassador saying that there was no lockdown. I didn't say lockdown. They were made to travel through Lal Chowk. In February 2020, the ambassadors and other people were made to travel through Srinagar. And there's a very interesting anecdote again about a newspaper editor. Must read in the book.
Tell us.
Ma'am, after 5th of August, I get a message from a reputed newspaper editor, and he says, I want to come and have an interview with you. So I said, okay. So a date was fixed, time was fixed. So on the given day, he arrived about 45 minutes early. So my staff told me, sir, the gentleman is here. So I said, if he's okay, we can start straight away. So he came to my office, and after initial setup and all, he says, sir, I miscalculated my travel time from the airport to Badami Bagh. I said, how? He says, sir, I calculated it will take 1 hour, 15 minutes or so, 1 hour, 30 minutes. And I thought there will be a lot of protests. There will be a lot of blockades, a lot of places I will be stopped and checked, and my ID will be checked. And, there will be police there and army there, and there will be shutdown, there will be lockdown, clampdown, as you said. And I said, sir, he said, sir, nothing like that happened. And I reached the Badami Bagh headquarters within 35 minutes. I said, yeah, that's the time it takes, 25 to 30 minutes. And he said, sir, but I didn't see anything. I said, there's nothing like it, it's just a propaganda. And then came the best part. He said, sir, I write 2 articles every month in my newspaper on Kashmir. So I thought I must visit Kashmir. So, ma'am, this is the type of people who write about Kashmir, who speak about Kashmir. Like you very rightly said, you traveled in Kashmir so extensively. They have not been on ground. They haven't seen Kashmir. Ma'am, Kashmiri, like a Kashmiri is portrayed as if every Kashmiri is a terrorist. Whereas Kashmiri people are such nice people. A Kashmiri is an intelligent person, intellectual. He is a poet, he's a writer, he's a magician, he's a sportsman, he's Mehman Nawazi. Beyond, I written the book.
Yes.
Ma'am, वो लोग जानते नहीं हैं कश्मीरियत को.
जी.
They don't understand Kashmir. And they become mouthpiece of people.
And they also don't understand the forge.
Yes, ma'am, absolutely.
I mean, one of the big privileges of my life has been the exposure to the military. And I really feel कि फौज का आपका अपना एक कल्चर है जो बहुत से लोग समझ नहीं पाते हैं. The idea of Paltan as family, the idea of buddy is literally like your brother.
Yes, ma'am.
To the regiment is everything. Of course, the country is everything, but the regiment is also so it's like a blood. It's as strong as a blood relation, if not stronger. I want to also remind people कि पुलवामा के बाद आया बालाकोट, and very tense time, right? We have our Abhinandan who's taken captive, and you quote, in fact, sort of from the Pakistan Parliament, you quote how the foreign minister was urging, please release him. India will attack Pakistan. It was such a tense time. What was your priority at that time?
Ma'am, a nation had taken a call of Balakot airstrikes, surgical strikes as they refer to, and then Pakistan retaliated the next day.
Yes.
And the Wing Commander Abhinandan incident happened. Ma'am, as a Corps Commander in Kashmir, because if anything had to happen,
yes,
Kashmir was definitely the player.
Of course.
The line of control,
yes, as
also the Kashmir Valley. So as a Corps Commander who is responsible for operations on the line of control, operations across the line of control, counter-infiltration, as also part of Team Security Forces operations in the valley floor. So it was my responsibility to be prepared for any eventuality if Pakistan tries something.
Yes.
We were prepared. We were prepared much before. As army, we are always prepared.
You had to be prepared for war effectively.
Absolutely, ma'am. Ma'am, like Turkey earthquake.
Yes.
Suddenly, aid had to be sent, humanitarian aid.
Yes.
Military hospital has moved. This is how the preparation is. We have to prepare and keep ourselves prepared for conventional war, sub-conventional war, man-made disaster, say a terrorist or something, a natural disaster, out-of-area contingencies, humanitarian aids. And when these things...
And you are also called in sometimes to keep the peace.
Yes, keep
to do flag marches. If a riot happens, if there's social unrest, हर चीज के लिए फौज ही चाहिए सबको.
And ma'am, one thing which I want to tell through your program, viewers must understand. For them, it would have felt okay. आर्मी को हुक्म मिला, एक हॉस्पिटल उठ के चला गया. Ma'am, there are things which have to be kept ready all the time.
What would it have taken, for example, to the aid that we're seeing in the aftermath of Turkey and Syria? Yeah. The earthquakes.
Like I said, the contingencies starting with conventional war, sub-conventional, natural disasters, man-made disasters, out-of-area contingencies. For this, you have to keep the items prepared. And these items, some of them are perishable. The rations have to be turned over. The medicines have an expiry date. They have to be turned over. Some ammunitions which are for conventional or sub-conventional or counter-terrorist operations, again, they have an expiry life. They have to be turned over. There are some very sensitive weapon systems who cannot be transported in a particular type of transport means. So all those things, nobody can understand. They're turning over, they're changing over, the expiry life, the shelf life, and then at a drop of a hat, you give an order and everything is ready. There's no time to say, okay, ये तो कलकत्ता में stores पड़े हुए हैं, वहाँ से आएंगे, ये मुंबई में पड़े हुए हैं, वहाँ से आएंगे. You have to be there. The brick has to be there. It's called brick. So this is what goes into this planning. Keeping the powder dry, as the phrase goes, is the most important thing for any professional army. And
also you have to be ready always
yes,
for a two-front war. There's not just Pakistan, there's China.
Yes, ma'am.
And there is all of this other sort of duties and responsibilities that the military may be called upon. And honestly, as an Indian, it really makes me so proud to see the way the military responded in the aftermath of the earthquakes in Turkey and Syria. It fills your heart with emotion. We have a couple of minutes in the end, and I want to come back to Pulwama and Kitne Ghazi Aaye, Kitne Ghazi Gaye. How did you all, without sharing anything operational, how did you crack who this Gazi was in this case? How, was there a story behind that? Must be fascinating. Obviously, you have your int on the ground, all of that. But how did you set about finding who was responsible for this?
Ma'am, without going into
any details,
the technical and operational details, I written this book. Getting intelligence is a very, very technical and tedious job.
Yes.
And this module, we knew this module, जैसे हिंदी movies में नहीं बोलते अभी underground हो जाओ.
Yeah.
We knew this module after this incident is going to go underground and not make any transmission. They're going to get into a safe place. And there afterwards, once they get into a safe place, they stop communicating. It's very difficult to track. So for the next 48 hours, I have given details in the book. We carried out so many operations, speculative operations, on operations of likely hideouts, on the operation of likely sympathizers. We did not let them come to a standstill.
As you had said, we will get the bastards.
We will get the bastards. And two things. If you are moving, you will be seen. If you are going to the next location, you will tie up the logistics. Somebody will receive you, somebody will guide you, somebody will make a hideout.
Yeah.
You will make communication. We wanted them to move and we wanted them to make communication. Both these things we will pick up. So this is exactly what happened. And even when we got this intelligence of Pinglana village, we had only 3 hours. They would move again. It was a red hot intelligence. I explained in the book what is the red hot intelligence, what is the background intelligence. We had only 3 hours to strike. We struck in the middle of the night. And this operation lasted more than a day. In spite of initial casualties of Major Vibhuti Dondial and soldiers, 55 Rashtriya Rifles, Jammu Kashmir Police did not let their guard down. Ma'am, it's very difficult to sustain the tempo of operation once you have casualties. There is a sort of a pause. But hats off to the troops on ground, 55 Rashtriya Rifles, Jammu Kashmir Police, they did not break the tempo of operation. They did not let the terrorists break contact.
And it's also because our officers lead from the front.
Yes, ma'am. Our officers lead from front in that particular operation also. Brigadier Harbir Singh was on leave. He voluntarily cut short his leave, returned back to Srinagar from the airport. He drove straight to the operational site. DIG Amit of Jammu Kashmir Police also was on the spot. Yeah. They both were leading from the front. They both got injured. This is how. And I take you back to my childhood in the army. My first day in the unit, I didn't realize this officer leading from the front. My first day in the unit was during the PT period in Sikkim. It was snowing. I had only seen instructors in ND and IMA coming and standing behind the PT parade. I went and stood behind the PT parade as a second lieutenant. After marching of the parade, Subedar Major Nandaram Saab, he walked up to me and gave me the first lesson of my life. He walked up to me and he says, Jai Hind Saab, Fauj mein officer hamesha aage. What he told me was that you don't stand behind the men, you always come and stand in front of the men and you lead. Yeah. And that time I thought I have to be in front so that men can see me. But I explained in the book later on, as the more wisdom came in, the officer has the maximum intelligence. Prior to start of the operations, during the operation, the inputs are coming to officer because he has the radio set means of communication. Yeah. He is in touch with battalion headquarters, the brigade headquarters, the neighboring unit, the source, and other people. So he is the right person in the front to take a decision to modify the plan. Now, if he is not leading, he is expecting some young officer or a Subedar Saab to modify the plan, he will not have the correct information. Yeah. That is the reason the officers in Indian Army, they always lead from the front.
Extraordinary. They say a soldier never retires. Yes, a soldier never really hangs up his boots. Yes. And there is this very iconic picture that went viral on social media on your last day in uniform. And, it was almost like a scene out of a movie, and then you're being carried out. People are singing for "He's a Jolly Good Fellow," literally being lifted out and carried out. Your life is now the stuff of legend, and I'm sure not one but many movies will be made on this, on your extraordinary life journey. Who would you like to play you?
Ma'am, first of all, thanks a lot. I think it was a wonderful life in the uniform.
Yes.
And I am enjoying it even after hanging my boots, as you said. Ma'am, a soldier's movie or the movie on military,
Yes.
it must convey what the military's life is. The points which you spoke, the question which you asked, the emotional part, the family's support, the paltan ki ijjat, unit ki ijjat, जिम्मेदारी, ईमानदारी, वफादारी, the operations. All these things must be portrayed.
What is portrayed instead in the movies you see?
Ma'am, Indian movies, they have come of age. They have improved a lot.
Yeah.
Especially the war movies or the military movies from last 40, 50 years, what we used to see. Today, they're much more matured work. But still, I feel research work needs to improve a little bit more.
Do you think there's some stereotypes that are not true?
Yes, ma'am.
Like,
ma'am, we can't have a lieutenant general of 25 years of age.
yes.
We can't have an officer wearing a different beret, a different shoulder titles, a different belt,
Yes.
a different lanyard.
And these are simple things to get right.
Simple
Yes.
things, ma'am. If you just contact a person who's retired, he will tell you, sir,
Yes.
ye theek nahi hai.
Yes.
So this is how it is. And the question about who should portray the role as and when, if and when the movie is made, I think, ma'am, anyone. My only thing is, other day I was with Mr. Anupam Kher, and he asked the same question. So my answer was, sir, Anupam Kher, sir, you should do it because you can speak Hindi with a Punjabi accent. So these are type of things which will be considered. So anyone who does the role, I only hope is they do it well, if at all the movie is made.
Any regrets, Tiny Dhillon, sir? Any regrets?
Ma'am, regrets तो है ही नहीं जिंदगी में.
कुछ unfulfilled dreams?
मैम अभी है वक्त जिंदगी बाकी.
जिंदगी तो है, बहुत जिंदगी बाकी है जैसे.
Ma'am, in the forge,
yes.
I have no regrets. My unit, my Paltan was like a family to me. My seniors, my CO, like parents to me. They brought me up, they modulated, they chiseled me, they guided me. Till today, they are guiding me.
Yes.
And the best part is we are in touch with the great-grandchildren. Our generations, we have made bonds. I written about this in the book also. मैम अपने परिवार से तो लाइफ में सिर्फ 10% ही मिलना हुआ. 90% of the time we are meeting the family, which is unit.
Yeah.
So you talked about unit Paltan. Ma'am, unit की इज्जत, Paltan की इज्जत. It's like a khandan. I've seen your very emotional tweets about your father.
Yes.
We have seen how your mother has covered the earlier wars.
Yes.
मैम वो खानदानी है. पल्टन या यूनिट एक खानदान है. मैं अगर कोई गलती करता हूँ for Rajrif में, so people will not say that Tiny Dhillon did this. People said for Rajrif 200 years old unit, so and so was commanding officer in so and so year, and look at the way this youngster has behaved. It's similar to in the village. तेरे बाप दादा का जो तेरा नाम था, तूने ये क्या कर दिया? तो मैम वो जो पल्टन की इज्जत है, जो खानदान की इज्जत से ज़्यादा पल्टन की इज्जत के ऊपर.
So there was a time when your father did not want you to join the army.
Yes, ma'am.
He must be so proud of you today.
Yes, ma'am. He did not want me to join the army. Again, I written in this book, Kitne Ghazi Aaye, Kitne Ghazi Gaye. And after a lot of haggling, and then my BG came in, she convinced him. So a decision was made, or a deal was made, that I will join the NDA. And after some time, he will get me out and pay the amount, whatever the compensation. But I was very clear. कि एक बार जाने दो,
फिर वापस नहीं आना.
I'm not going to come back. And then for a few years, somehow he could never come to meet me. But once he came to meet me, and he saw the life, and he met other officers and ladies and all, then he was convinced that I made the right choice. And today is very proud father.
Of course. Yeah. Tiny Dhillon, sir, with the large heart and the larger courage and the even larger legacy, it's been a privilege talking to you. For everybody in our audience, this is the book, Kitne Ghazi Aaye, Kitne Ghazi Gaye, my life story. Please do read it, sir. It's been a fascinating read, a fascinating conversation. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, ma'am, and namaskar and Jai Hind.
Jai Hind, sir.